Up next, you're going to learn how to do the ultimate 12 by 400 meter repeat interval for improving your VO2 max, where to start if you're new to it, and advance if you're more experienced runner, why this is more of a lactate threshold workout, aka slightly easier, instead of a lactate tolerance workout, aka much harder, what your threshold is and is not for running. This was a tricky one. How this workout is very different than an all-out 400 meter workout like 6x400s, why this is a great workout for all distances, including 1 mile, 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon, and I'd even say ultras, and when you should and should not do this for your training cycle throughout the year, and much more. Let's get into it.
I'm a classic runner. I do these on the track. I don't do them on the road. Accelerate around the bend. I float down the straight. And then I think, okay, let's start to wind it up again. And I'm winding it up with 300, hit the 300 meter mark, and it's okay, stride for home. And it's a great VO2 max session. It's about the right time frame that we need and intensity to improve your VO2 max. And also, it's perfect for 5,000 meters because you're doing 12 and a half laps for 5,000 meters. This is 12 laps. It's there or thereabouts. So it's a great 5K session.
Let's break it down so you can do, someone wants to get into it, they could do 6x400s. They can then up it up to 16x400s if they get really, fit and they want to start like really stressing themselves. So like break down the core of what the actual workout is, the rest, the time, etc. What you're trying to do. So break that all down.
So I'm trying to develop my threshold, my running economy. I'm trying to be able to, what we say, deflect the curve to the right, run a little bit quicker without building up lactate in the blood. And by doing this over a period of 4 to 6 weeks, we've found that I'm able to buffer the lactic and able to run and cope with a higher volume of lactate in the body without slowing me down. So if you were just to run a straight 5K without doing this session, you will say, I'm going to pick a magic number of 30 minutes. But then you do this session for 6 weeks, you'll find that you haven't increased your VO2 max specifically in that short period of time. It will contribute down the line, but it's making you more economical. You're able to cope with running at a certain pace using less oxygen as you're running. It's becoming more efficient with the way you're running, and that's why I like it. And I find that the best is a 2-to-1 ratio, work to rest. So again, just for simple maths, I find that if you're running the 400 in 80 seconds, I know that's going to be fast for some people, slow for some. I would take 40 seconds rest. And that brings me down to a nice 2-minute circle. And so, I'd try and hit all the intervals at the same pace, each one, and keep the rest the same for each one. So I'm getting literally, 40 seconds rest for the 80 seconds of work time that I'm doing. And that's over time what I've discovered is the most effective way of helping the athletes. And then again, I've got 30 odd years. Each time we talk, it gets longer, maybe 35 years of coaching. I found that, I've got a lot of experience and I know that most of my athletes do really well on this session. So I know it works. It's totally different from 6x400, which I would give to a 1500 meter runner. And I would give them 3 minutes rest initially on that so that they can go absolutely all out. And that's not about working their threshold. That's about absolute lactate tolerance, being able to run at a fast pace, which is what you're good at, with massive amount of lactate swirling around in their bodies, a really high volume. So that's different from a lactic threshold. It's a maximum lactic tolerance session is for 6x400 with a bigger rest. So you can see by varying the rest period and the number, we change in the session.
And you would also vary the pace, obviously. So the pace would be closer. Yeah.
I would say, in a sense, you go all out on each one of them. And people talk about that, and it's a difficult one. It's not your 400 meter all out. It's just a little bit slower because you want to hit them all roughly the same time. But yeah, it's pretty much a max effort. So when you get to the sixth one, your ears are ringing, your legs are wobbling, you'll know this, Darren, you're coming down the home straight, you've got 50 meters to go and the legs just won't work. Well, they're getting slower, they're driving the arms more and the leg stride's getting shorter and shorter. That should be happening on 6x400 with a 3 minutes rest. On 12x400 with a 40 seconds rest, you could probably do another 4 intervals okay. You should be finishing thinking, yeah, I've got 4 more inside me, but I'm not going to do them because I have tomorrow's training, the next day's training, have the racing and everything else. So you're keeping a little bit up your sleeve. It is a simple way of explaining where that should be.
I would liken the pace for this workout. So we're not talking about the 6x400s. That's a proper, even though both of them are fast, that's a proper Z5, like you said, lactic tolerance. Like that's a hard workout for a 1500 meter runner. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this 12x400s. Maybe if someone's getting into it, they can do this same pace and they could do 8 of them. If someone's advanced, they could do 16. I saw a guy doing 20 of them. I was like, oh my God, 20. He was obviously I think he's like 29 years old. He was very, very elite.
20, I would say, is a 10K session. That's more of a
10K,
specific
okay.
session you're doing for 10K.
Got you.
The pace, again, would be slightly slower, but you're trying to build up the speed you can hold for the 10K. So, and I would, if I'm doing a 10K session, I might start off at 12 at 10K pace, then develop to 16, and then eventually move on to 20. So I wouldn't say, hey, Darren, you did a 10K, here's 20 by 400 at race pace. That would kill you. I might start off even at 10 and say, look, let's get 10 and see if you can do 10 to 12, you're in the ballpark to hit the target that you're going for, at the race pace you're trying to do.
Okay, so on that race pace, so let's say this is for a 5K runner. So this workout, even though this workout is pretty much applicable. I was an 800 runner and I did this workout. So it's really an interesting workout. It's very adaptable and very it could be used in a lot of different situations. So let's say you're a 5K runner all the way up to a marathon. Like you're doing all of them. What would the pace be for you to do this? Like, would it be your current 5K fitness pace? Would it be your 10K pace? So I know there's a lot to go with this, and my questions are always loaded. There's always a lot happening. But let's say you just want to do this workout in the middle of the year. Where in general should the pace fall? And here's another part. Should it be based on RPE, pace, or heart rate?
Well, I'll use me as an example. So if I come in and I want to do a 5K, I'll do this session the first time on RPE and just go in and run the session just to see where I'm at. So I'll go around.
So what's the RP? Is it like 8 out of 10?
So the RPE is interesting. It's where I perceive my threshold to be, which I don't put a number on it. I've run so long, I know where my threshold is, which is probably around, and everyone's 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 6. It's all different for everyone. It's a number that you perceive. So I set off at a pace that I perceive I can maintain for 12 efforts. And through my experience, I'm pretty good at that.
What is a threshold? What is threshold?
Threshold is if I'm running any quicker than that, I won't maintain that pace for the whole 12 reps.
I'm a beginner runner. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
What you have to do is you will find out through experience what a pace is you can hold for the reps. And it's all about experience. So what we're talking, even for a novice runner, will find it difficult. If when you get to learn the terminology, you start to learn more and more and understand the body. So that we've thrown these terms around that I try my hardest on Instagram to explain it and get it down to the lowest denominator so that everyone can understand it without getting away from the science. But we do tend to put in nerves, like you said, oh, that's Z5. Well, for a start, in England, no one will understand Z5 because it's Zone 5 or it's Z5. But there's so many different things that we can differentiate. So we've got to constantly define the terms, which is where it's good for you to keep picking me apart. Might take it back a bit. So 12/400s. Let's go back to basics. I'll start off the beginning of the session or the beginning of the season at a pace that I think I can maintain that pace for all 12. Now, I'll get to the finish of the session. Once I've finished, I'll think, you know what? That was a little easy. I'll up it next time. Then the next session, I'll go a little bit quicker and I'll think, oh, that was a little bit hard. I slowed down at the end. Then I'll look at them and think, well, week 1, I was running 85 seconds for each 400. Week 2, I started off at 78 and ended up at 85. So I think the pace I need to be aiming at is around about 83 seconds per 400. And by default, I sort of define it by week 3. I pretty much know where I need to be aiming at. And then I set myself a number that I'm looking at and trying to achieve as a goal. And then from there, I can then extrapolate that if I'm running around about 83 seconds per lap, I'm probably in that 17-minute zone for 5K with a bit of training. So I already know, because I've done it so often, I know what each lap equates to per kilometer, per 5K. And beginners and novice runners, this is why we need coaches in essence. It takes them a lot longer to equate to where they're at. But I don't look at heart rate while I'm running. I look at it when I finish to see what it was, because I find it fascinating to see what the maximum heart rate is, what it's doing, what I'm at, and where my threshold is. But I run to feeling all the time, and I look at the clock and try and push it a little bit and work on strategies to keep me at the right pace I need to be going. So yeah, RPE is possibly the most important. And at the risk of dominating the conversation here, I just want to say that when you're racing, it doesn't matter how high your heart rate goes, so long as you can maintain that pace. So RPE is more important than heart rate. You might suddenly find that you reach a new level of training and can maintain a higher heart rate, or your stroke volume of the heart becomes so good that you need a lower heart rate to go at the pace you need to go at. So often people get too focused on heart rate. I think it's important, but I think the feeling is way, way more important than the actual heart rate when you're running.
If you want to learn more about this topic, we went into further detail. You should go and check that out right here.